Some of you may be unaware that there has been a significant surge in dedicated fans porting their favorite video games to platforms that you may not have even thought about. The current excitement surrounding this phenomenon has motivated me to create this video to inform you about some of the projects that are currently in development. The act of porting a game differs somewhat from emulation. While some ports use emulation, the fan ports I'm discussing here do not work that way. Instead, they strictly adhere to the original game's code, although some may utilize ROMs. What this ultimately means is that a port won't consume as many resources as an emulator would. There are benefits to this approach, which I will discuss shortly. So without further delay, let's delve into the world of fan porting. Some of you may think that remasters only became popular recently, but the earliest remaster I can recall is Super Mario Bros. All-Stars, a collection of the first 3 games released on the original Nintendo system. Why do I bring this up? Well, there are fans currently porting Nintendo games to the Super Nintendo, which I find relevant. And maybe I just wanted to let you know that this game exists. So far, popular games like The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and recently Double Dragon have all been ported to the SNES. As mentioned before, ports don't require as many resources as emulators do, which allows them to be played on the original hardware using flashcards. These ports often come with enhancements like improved performance, additional user interface elements, and controls mapped to the extra buttons on the original controller. However, the standout feature in my opinion is the use of hardware that technically didn't exist, the MSU1. The MSU1 is considered hypothetical hardware linked to the CD add-on that Nintendo ultimately decided not to release, speculated to rival the Sega and TurboGrafx CD. The MSU1 significantly enhances the Nintendo port experience by adding title FMVs and remix audio tracks, breathing new life into these games. As mentioned earlier, these special ports can be played on original hardware, as well as on emulators like Messen 2 and FPGA hardware like Mister. Porting games to newer hardware is intriguing, but what about porting games from newer or more advanced systems to a 16-bit system? Currently, the Mega Drive, also known as the Sega Genesis in the West, has some impressive fan ports in development known as D-Makes, which have piqued my curiosity and excitement as I've explored the latest projects. One of the first projects I discovered was the porting of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Originally released on the PlayStation and Sega Saturn consoles, Symphony of the Night is one of my all-time favorite video games and even birthed a new subgenre known as Metroidvania. Upon trying out the demo provided by the game's developer Pigsy, I couldn't believe that this game could run on 16-bit hardware, but it clearly does. Additionally, the original soundtrack has been remixed. Take a listen. I never imagined such a project would be possible, and upon learning of more ports in development, I couldn't resist exploring what else was available. While Final Fight did receive a port on the Sega CD, it left much to be desired. This disappointment motivated one particular developer to rectify this by creating a port for the Sega Genesis console. Like Symphony of the Night, this Final Fight port is a work in progress, but from what I've experienced with the latest beta release, it seems to be coming along well. Plenty of games were ported from the Neo Geo to the Sega Genesis, but after the release of the PlayStation and Sega Saturn, development for the 16-bit console came to an end. However, it seems that this end didn't sit well with Sega Genesis fans, and there are at least 2 ongoing projects I'm aware of, Windjammers and Real Bout Fatal Fury Special. Real Bout Fatal Fury Special plays and looks much better than I ever thought possible. As for Windjammers, several builds of the game have been released, and like many other ports, it feels authentic to what could have been a real Sega Genesis game during its prime. Similar to SNES ports, you can experience these Sega Genesis ports through original hardware or emulation. Up until now, all the ports discussed have been available through emulation, but this last category is a bit different. We all know that emulators are mainly found on PC, but there is a dedicated group of fans creating PC ports from certain consoles that start with an N and ends with 64. PC ports featuring popular games from the Nintendo 64 console have seen the most development, and it seems that things have recently accelerated in this space. You may already be familiar with Super Mario 64 port, which has seen the most fervent development and also had the most takedown requests from Nintendo. Despite this, fans continue to port games from the Nintendo 64, achieving significant milestones in game releases. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time has probably seen the second most development when it comes to Nintendo 64 points, with the release of Ship of Harkinian. Featuring enhancements such as the ability to increase the frame rate to 10 times higher than Nintendo 64 could handle, widescreen support, and various game fixes, it's clear that emulating this game is no longer necessary. Take a look at the difference between emulation and the PC port. On my A380, the game runs faster with higher resolution on the PC port compared to the emulator, which runs at half the frame rate and lower resolution while using more resources. Even the second game, Majora's Mask, has a PC port. Notably, this title was accomplished through a tool called N64 Recompiled, a project aiming to recompile the original game's code for use on any platform. Recently, a PC port of Perfect Dark was released. Like other N64 ports, it showcases technical wizardry, and I've spent considerable time with this version due to how easy it was to set up and start playing. Fan ports serve as a reminder that sky is the limit for where retro games can go. This is just one of the many areas of fan projects that I wanted to highlight because I believe incredible work is being done. I'll be leaving links to all the projects discussed in this video in the comment section below and encourage you to support these amazing efforts in any way you can. If you enjoyed this video, please like and consider subscribing as I'll be covering more fan projects in the future. For now, this is the Core, your entertainment techie, signing out.